Introduction to Algebra, Summary 1. In this lesson, we're going to cover the topics in section 1 through 5 and ask questions. You want to look at a page, pause the video, and answer those questions, and then move on to the next page. The answers will be at the end. Part 1. Babs has 5 apples and Larry has 3 apples. Larry gives her 2 apples. First, express the number of apples Babs has in the form of B equals and then some equation, and then express the number of apples Larry has with an equation with L equals. Next, Babs has $100 in the bank, earning 2% interest each month. How much money does she have at the end of the month? Section 2. Babs has $100 in the bank and is earning 3% interest per month. So M equals $100, the amount of money she has, and I equals 3%. Write an equation showing how much money Babs has at the end of 1 month using M and I. Now, which variable, M or I, is dependent and which one is independent? Calculate the following. 3 times 5 squared. 4 times, parentheses, 5 plus 3, parentheses, minus 7. What do the initials MDAS stand for? Calculate the following. The square root of 9, 3 squared, and the square root of 4 squared. Section 4. Calculate the following. 25 minus negative 75, 4 times negative 3, 12 divided by negative 4, negative 25 plus 54, and negative 2 to the power of 3. Section 5. Write the following as a fraction. Parentheses 4 times a parentheses divided by 7. Now calculate the following. 5 over 7 times 3 over 4, 5 over 3 divided by 9 over 7, and finally 3 over 2 plus 4 over 5. Take the following two equations, t equals 8x plus 27 minus 13y, and then x equals 10y. Rewrite the first equation for t in terms of y, and then write an equation for t in terms of just x. Congratulations, you got through the questions. Let's go through some answers. First one was Babs has 5 apples and Larry has 3 apples and Larry gives her 2, and we express the number of apples Babs has. Well, it's 5 plus 2 apples, so that's B equals 5 plus 2. The second one is express the number of apples that Larry has. Well, Larry had 3 apples and gave away 2, so L equals 3 minus 2. Now the last question, Babs has $100 in the bank, earning 2% interest per month. How much money does she have at the end of the month? Well, we have $100 plus $100 times 2.02 equals 102. Okay, so Babs has $100 in the bank and is earning 3% interest. So M is the amount of money in the bank, $100, and I is the interest rate, 3%. Now we want to write an equation showing how much money Babs has at the end of 1 month using M and I. Well, going back to our previous one, M equals M plus M times I. Now, which variable, M or I, is dependent and which one is independent? Well, we know that the value of M is calculated based upon I, and I, our interest rate here is 3%, but it may change. So M is the dependent variable, and I is the independent variable. Now we're going to have you calculate the following. Well, 3 times 5 squared, well, 5 times 5 is 25, times 3 is 75. Next one, 4 times 5 plus 3 minus 7, well, 5 plus 3 is 8, 8 times 4 is 32, minus 7 is 25. What does MDAS stand for? Multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. Now let's calculate the following. The square root of 9, well, 3 times 3 equals 9, so that's 3. 3 squared, well, 3 times 3 equals 9, so 3 squared is 9. Now that last one is hard. We want the square root of 4 squared. Well, the square root of 4 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. And then 2 times 2 equals 4. So we end up with 4. Okay, so now let's have you calculate some values. What's 25 minus negative 75? Well, we know when we subtract a negative number, it's like adding a positive number, so that's 25 plus 75 is 100. When we multiply a negative number times a positive number, it's a negative number. 4 times negative 3 equals 12. When we divide a negative number by a positive number, it's a negative number, so 12 divided by negative 4 equals negative 3. Now the next one, negative 25 plus 54. Remember, adding a negative is the same as subtracting, so we'll say 54 minus 25. That ends up being 29. And the last one is tricky. It's negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. Well, we know negative 2 times negative 2. A negative times a negative is a positive, so that's 4. But then we're going to multiply it by negative 2 again, so it's going to turn negative again, and it ends up being negative 8. Okay, so now we're going to write the following as a fraction. Parentheses 4 times a, parentheses, divided by 7. Well, we know that it's 4 times a, that is in parentheses, so we calculate it first, and we're going to divide it by 7. So it's 4a over 7. Now we're going to do some calculations with fractions. 5/7 times 3/4, you simply multiply 5 times 3, and 7 times 4, you get 15 over 28. 5 divided by 3, or 5 over 3 divided by 9 over 7. Well, remember with division, you invert the first one. So it's 5 times 7, 35 over 3 times 9, which is 27. So it's 35 over 27. Now the next one is addition. Now remember with addition, we need a common denominator. Now we've got 3/2 plus 4/5. Now, if we take 2 times 5, that's 10. So we take 3 times 5, that's 15. Plus 4 times 2, that's 8. That's 23 over 10. Okay, so now we're going to do a little substitution. We have two equations. T equals 8x plus 27 minus 13y, and x equals 10y. Now, first thing we want to do is write an equation for t in terms of y. So wherever we have x, we substitute y. So it's t equals 80y plus 27 minus 13y, or t equals 63y, that's 80 minus 13 plus 27. Now, let's do the same thing for writing an equation for t, but this time we're going to do it in terms of x. So we know that wherever we have y, we're going to have x over 10. We take the 10y, we move the 10 over. And so t equals 8x plus 27 minus 13x over 10. Congratulations, you made it through our first summary of our first 5 lessons.